We're talking about the Fifth Amendment. Talking about the Fifth Amendment due process clause. We're not talking about the 14th because this isn't state, this is federal.
Yes.
Right? So the requirement for due process, it's pretty basic, man. It's like you need to have notice, you need to have an opportunity to be heard, and you need to have a neutral decision maker, a fair and
That is,
impartial
yes,
judge.
you're right. And they couldn't even meet that. They didn't meet that for these people. That's why there's so many
Okay,
lawsuits right now. They're not doing that for these people. That's the bare minimum. That's all. I wouldn't have an argument if they did that, Preston. I wouldn't have an argument.
okay.
That's all. The bar is in hell. Let them give them the opportunity to show evidence, have a neutral fucking immigration judge, and give them the opportunity. That's literally it. And then throw them out of the country. I don't care. But you can't grab people, not give them that opportunity, not give them the opportunity to be heard, not give the opportunity to show documentation, to show that they have been complying, and then sending them to... And it's not even like they just deported them, man. It's that they deported them and they sent them to the worst fucking prison in the Western Hemisphere. And on top of that, they don't have criminal records. All of these things together make for a deeply immoral, a deeply flawed action that I question you on the legality of it, but my fucking God, on a political, on a moral, on a in my opinion, legal level, like this is untenable, and it doesn't become of a world superpower, of the only superpower. We're not acting like a superpower.
When did it become the Democrats' position to tell another country what they should or should not do with their own citizen? Like when Trump meant with sorry, go ahead.
I am not the Democratic Party. I am a capital L liberal. I am a capital N neoliberal, a capital N neocon. I like liberalism. I like America. We are the strongest fucking country the world has ever seen. If some country is doing some sort of immoral action and we have the ability to make that stop, we ought to make that stop. If we complete
intervention.
Complete intervention? No, I think that we can pick and choose. And I do think that we can pick and choose based off of what is politically expedient here. I think that we can pick and choose based off of what is moral. I think we can make those determinations at the time. I think that it's not just us telling other nations what to do. It's us acting in a moral way ourselves and recognizing that if we make a mistake, we will rectify that mistake. And we have the ability to rectify that mistake. But we're pretending that we can't rectify that mistake. We pretend like we are weak. Trump talks about us like we're weak. We are the most powerful nation in the entire world. And he kind of let the game slip a little bit when he admitted to, I can't remember what the reporter's name is, but he admitted to that reporter in the interview that, yeah, I could pick up the phone tomorrow, but there are people in there are people in the lawyer's department that don't want me to. He could bring Kilmar back tomorrow. He won't, because there's some strategy in the White House that says it is better politically to leave him there than it is to bring him back.
Hey, what's going on, man? Can you hear me?
I sure can. How's it going?
Hey, it's going good. I've been listening and I wanted to bring a couple of points to you that I think might broaden your horizon.
Okay.
First, really quick, I just wanted to point something out that caught my attention when you were holding up the Constitution and talking about the framers' intent for the presidency,
Mm-hmm.
and you made the position that the framers did not want a strong president.
No, that's not what I said. I said that I don't think that the framers wanted a president that was going to constantly test the legal bounds of what they could possibly do and try and break the legal limits of what they're trying to do, of what they can possibly do. Of course, they wanted a strong president and they wanted an energetic president to be able to take care of the things that Congress couldn't do quickly.
So I'm interested at the current moment with the immigration position of the current administration. What
Okay.
are your thoughts on it? Do you think that they should be enforcing the law?
Well, I definitely think that they should be enforcing the law. They're the executive branch of our government. If they're not executing the laws, then they're not doing their job. Um, when it comes to illegal immigration, I'm at this point, like, I just don't care that much about it. If people want to make legislation around it, I'm fine. I think that it should be smart and not just like built around memes like build the wall. We should, whenever we make policy, we should make intelligent policy, which is going to involve, increasing the amount of border patrol agents that we have. It's going to involve fixing our amnesty process. It's going to involve having more judges, yada, yada, yada. So there's going to be some difficult politics there for both Democrats and Republicans. Democrats, because they never want to do anything on immigration, and Republicans, because what we need to do isn't as extreme or cruel as they want to do. When it comes to the current administration, man, you know what? Their immigration policy is literally just like the southern border, Canada, anyone that isn't going to cause the worst possible PR. Let's bring over some South Africans and say that they are the ones that are truly oppressed. Like, I don't know. I think that their immigration policy is largely based around shock and awe and cruelty rather than any kind of coherent idea of what our demographics should look like, or what our labor market should look like, or what anything should look like. I think that they're just doing it because, LOL, we have to do this because everyone wants us to.
Well, I don't think it's LOL, we have to do this because everyone wants us to.
There's some true believers
The
in the
position,
administration.
no, the position is the enforcement of the law. And the previous administration was not enforcing the law passed by Congress.
Which
And that's
law?
8 USC 1325, passed in 1929, unauthorized entry of an alien. Reinforced in 1996 under the Clinton administration for harsher penalties if you're in this country unauthorized. Now,
Okay, and you're saying that they just didn't enforce that whatsoever?
there was an omission of enforcement, didn't say whatsoever, but when you allow what it's a record-breaking number of the illegal immigration that happened along the
They didn't
border under the Biden
prioritize something that
administration.
you thought was an issue, and
No,
therefore it was some sort of
no, it's
targeted
not.
bad thing.
It's not prioritized. See, that word scares
I
me.
do think it is
It's
prioritized. I don't
no.
think that the
Here's
Democrats
no.
prioritize caring about illegal immigration whatsoever because they
I'm
were
not
too scared
talking
to
about
piss
the
off their base.
Democrats. I'm not talking about the Democrats. I'm talking about this from a very legal lens.
Okay.
Under Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution, the president must faithfully execute the laws passed by Congress. Do we agree on that?
Yes.
Okay. Congress passed in 1929 an unauthorized Alien Entry Act. It was like, if there's someone that's in this country and they're unauthorized and they're considered an alien, then it's not a priority. It's a requirement of the executive to execute the law passed by the people. And the Biden
Okay.
administration was not executing that law.
They weren't executing it enough for your liking.
No, it's not about my liking. They weren't executing.
It
There were people that were
is.
no.
There are people.
There were
they had
1.5 million
Preston,
people that entered
did they
into.
have,
Okay.
Did they have border patrol on the border? Did they make
Yes.
apprehensions? Did they make deportations?
Yeah. What does that have to do with the point I'm making?
You're saying that they didn't do these things, but they did. They didn't
No,
do them
I'm
enough
not
for your
saying they
liking,
didn't.
and they
No.
didn't do them enough for the American people's liking. They took a big hit in the polls for this, but they in no way just simply did not enforce a law. This is something that previous administrations have done. They have simply just not enforced a law, and that has been a controversial thing. And there have been lawsuits over that sort of thing, but it's really hard to prove. And what you're doing right now is exactly that. You're failing worse than anyone else has ever done to prove that someone has failed to execute a law. I think that the Biden administration just did not care that much about the southern border because they didn't put that much of a priority there. They didn't want to piss off their progressive base, and they didn't want to start mass deporting people. They didn't want any kind of like crazy things like we saw with Trump's first term with the kids in cages. So they kind of slow walked everything. It was kind of not even, on the back burner. It was still in the refrigerator.
Okay, let's stop really quick.
Sure.
Just because there were enforcements in specific situations under the Biden administration does not then mean that they were enforcing the law. Like, yeah, there were times where they did enforce the law, but if they chose to have prosecutorial discretion on a baseless position, then they're not enforcing the law, are they?
Well, you're not entirely wrong there, but they also have the ability to interpret the statutes because they're the executive branch.
No, that wrong.
That's literally that's only changed
wrong.
recently. That changed after.
That is not true. Dude, the executive does not interpret the law. That is never the executive's position. No.
On how to execute the law? Yes, that's how we get all of our regulations.
That is the judiciary. That is the judiciary. Under Marbury versus Madison, Chief Justice John Marshall said the exclusive position of the judiciary is to interpret the law.
Yes, you're talking about something else. Maybe I need to pick a different word here. What I'm talking about
interpret the law is never the executive's position. It's simply enforcement.
Laws are written, and then statutes and how to enforce and rules are written based off of those laws. Do we agree?
Yeah, laws are written. Yeah.
Laws are written, and then those laws go to the executive branch, and they write rules on how to enforce those laws.
Not okay. Sort of. Sometimes, depending on the law.
That happened until 2024. That happened until 2024 with the overturn.
Are you talking about Chevron doctrine? Okay.
Well, that happened.
You're misapplying the Chevron doctrine, dude. The Chevron doctrine was that there were attorneys in specific agencies that would write. They would write codified text in which they were able to use to supplant specific policy. That doesn't mean that they were interpreting the law. That means that, for instance, if you work for ICE, you could hire an attorney.
Does ICE and CBP do they get to write rules around the laws on how to enforce the laws? The regulations. Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
They write rules like it may be required or it may not be required depending upon where you are in CBP to wear a bulletproof vest when on the job. Like that's it. It's procedural. It's regulatory.
There's no procedural rules you don't think that might make it to where they just like turn people back, or it's not enough enforcement for your liking, or they bring people in, like maybe that's the policy, you bring them into the thing. Like it's not that they're not following the law, it's that they're following the law in not a way that you want them to, or not enough for you. They're not putting enough emphasis on it.
Let's talk very specifically my problem with what the Biden administration did and why it's just the Biden administration. Because this wasn't a problem under Obama. This wasn't a problem under Clinton. This wasn't a problem pre-Clinton for Democrats. It was never a problem for Republicans. But I guess for the past 4 years, it was like, okay, there's a completely different way to interpret the law via the executive under BCP, which is to allow 1.5 million completely undocumented people to cross into the border. And then after they cross into the border, we're going to we're going to use prosecutorial discretion to not require them to go in front of a judge via the DOJ.
What law changed? What law changed that nobody are you telling me that no lawsuits went through and nobody was criminally charged for dereliction of duty? I'm not
saying that. Let's say that there were 100 people. Let's say there were 1,000 people. Let's say there were 100,000 people that were prosecuted, right? There was 1.5 million just undocumented. That's an estimate. That's not including the people that were entered into the border. So it's like, yeah, Biden, at some point, his DOJ may have had certain people prosecuted under the law. That doesn't detract from the fact that there were 1.5 million people that entered into the country that were provided notices to appear in immigration court And Biden said, we're going to get rid of the zero tolerance policy made by Trump. We're going to get rid of the remain in Mexico led by Trump.
Were any of these
and we're going to
actions
allow you to
illegal?
remain in this country. What?
Were any of these actions illegal?
What actions? Not prosecuting them?
Any of the actions that you just laid out. I'm waiting for the part where they're doing something illegal.
Yeah, not enforcing the law and using prosecutorial discretion as the reason for not enforcing the law. It goes against the will of the people. I wouldn't say it's illegal. It's unconstitutional.
Well, that would definitionally be illegal then.
Fine. Then, yeah, I would say it was unconstitutional. He was not doing Article 2, Section 3 powers, implied powers to the president to execute the law.
Then we disagree, and nobody has brought a case against the Biden administration for not enforcing the law, to my knowledge, that I can remember.
That's because you can't. How would you even bring that case?
Yeah.
What person would you find to bring redressability in court?
Oh, so there's just like rules that we can never enforce whatsoever. I don't know how they would be able to bring this to court. I am almost certain that there have been in the past case law around this, but I'm not like 1,000,000% sure around
there's
not doing
case law
something.
Around you can't criminally prosecute the president federally. So I don't know, like, how would they bring this case? If the president chooses not to enforce the law, the only mechanism that we have in our Constitution is impeachment.
I'm not saying that.
Well, okay.
Some kind of lawsuit to compel the executive branch into action is like all I'm talking about. I'm not talking about some kind of like criminal conviction or anything like that. The bar is not nearly that high. I'm not a fucking crazy ideologue, like crazy, set the bar way too high for you to ever clear it.
The only mitigation you have would be impeachment. That's all that the Constitution provides us. If the president isn't enforcing the law,
there's no action that the judiciary can do to compel the executive branch to act.
No,
that's not true.
Okay, give me it. I'm waiting.
I mean, like, there was recently just a Supreme Court ruling that the executive branch is supposed to facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego.
Now, what was the requirement? What was the requirement under Alito's ruling in that case? That facilitate had to be, it was remanded back down to the district court to determine facilitate, because the judiciary cannot enforce the law. They can only interpret. They cannot. How?
Oh my God! You're bringing up like an incredible point here. That in order for our executive branch to function and for it to be a democracy, the executive branch has to willingly comply with the courts, because the courts don't have their own police agency. They don't have their own military force. So when the courts tell the executive branch to do something, we assume that the executive branch is just going to do it.
All right,
that's why we have a separation of powers.
Let's go back to the original question that started this whole thing, which was absolutely there are mechanisms to get the executive to enforce the law. And I said the only one that I can think of,
after fighting me so hard on that, thank you so much for conceding that. Thank you. Now,
I'm not conceding that.
You literally just conceded the thing that we just argued about.
Okay, so what you said was, what are the mechanisms other than impeachment that our system has to require the president to enforce the law? And then you followed up with, well, the judiciary. I didn't say that. I said there's only impeachment.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's
you said
what
there's
I
only
said.
Impeachment, and I said that the judiciary can compel the executive branch to do something.
And I said, and then you said, it's the president must willingly comply with the law that the judiciary interprets.
Yeah, that's the way
now, would you consider willingly complying with something to be a means for the judiciary to compel the president to do something?
That's the way our government is set up.
I agree, which is why it doesn't work that you have the judiciary.
Oh, so we just have a dictatorship under Trump because he decides not to play by the rules that everyone else is played by? He just decides to break the rules?
The framers said...
Well, can you tell me why he is not following a rule that is a 9-0 order from the Supreme Court? Why he has not complied with that order?
What order? The Kilmar Abrego Garcia?
Yeah, 9-0.
I mean... I would make the position that just because, dude,
The
Okay,
Supreme
it's a
Court.
9-0.
I don't care what you're like. If Biden did this, I would never vote for the Democratic Party ever again. And I swear on the Constitution, because I don't have a Bible and I'm not a Christian. All right, I would never vote for another Democrat if they did something like this. It is unreal. The judiciary, the Supreme Court,
Do what?
Not comply with the Supreme Court's order. If the executive branch just decides that they are not going to comply with the Supreme Court, then we do not have the checks and balances in the Constitution anymore. They're supposed to comply legally.
Dude, no, you're not. No, this is not what I'm saying. You're
This is
missing the point that I'm trying to make, and we're pivoting. And I think I brought up a pretty good position.
I've misunderstood.
The position
it feels like this is what you've been arguing for the entire time.
The position that I've made, and I'm sticking with, is that the only way to get the executive to comply with the law is through impeachment. Like, that's how the system is set up. It was set up as the framers intended, with an aristocracy, a monarchy, and a democracy, and the judiciary. And they're all working together, and it's based on
I understand
the concept of Britain.
Yes, I'm sorry. There was a disconnect in language here.
Okay,
we agree.
What I'm saying is the only way to actually get the president to do something is through impeachment. You can't do it through SCOTUS.
Now,
Jackson, this was already played out under Jackson's presidency too.
I just want to interject here. At the end of the day, we agree. What I disagree with is that it should have to come to impeachment. The president should comply with the Supreme Court. Yes or no? Like at a baseline, can we agree with that?
I would say most of the time, yes.
Yeah,
I think we're okay. Let me try this. I would say under the Kilmer-Abrego-Garcia, yes. Right? I agree. The president should comply with trying to facilitate.
I'm so genuinely curious. I don't understand. It is like I just started reading this annotation of the Constitution, and in a very plain reading, right? In a very plain reading, the president complies with the Supreme Court. Like, if there is a question of law, if there is a question of whether someone has done something illegal or legally or according to the correct procedure, at the end of the day, the final say is the Supreme Court. This should not be a discussion. And that's what bugs me so much about these conversations and why I get ultra hostile, because I don't know if we can't. I can read it right here. Like, it's in my hand. Like, it's a plain reading of the Constitution, and everybody recognizes that in high school. And if we can't agree on that, then I don't know what we can agree on.
Well, okay, let me throw something at you. Let's try and bring the temperature down. Let me throw something at you and let me see what you think about this, okay? Under Article 2, Section 3 is where you see the language for faithfully executing the law. Like, president is supposed to faithfully execute the law of Congress, right?
Yeah.
But the law isn't always black and white, and it changes with societal times and whatnot, right? So the judiciary, the Supreme Court, has already ruled that if the president is doing something in line with what Congress wants, then he's at his most powerful under Article 2, Section 3. So we have a system right now with Kilmer-Abrego-Garcia, right?
But that
doesn't seem like Congress has a problem with what Trump is doing.
Well, first off, I don't know about that. Second off, when you say what Congress wants, they don't. They're their most power when they're doing what Congress wants. What Congress wants.
It's an applied power, yeah.
Yeah, it's what was written down in the law, right? And the law shows that this guy shouldn't have been, like the Kilmer-Abrego guy, he shouldn't have been deported. There was a specific order not to deport him to El Salvador. There's documentation.
Here's my problem.
Right? Hold on, really quick.
Sorry.
So faithfully executing, it feels like that was bad, executing it in bad faith. Like, when we're arguing, we have to suspend habeas corpus. When we are arguing, we have to shortcut civil rights, for due process, not a full jury trial, right? Just making sure that people have the opportunity to provide documentation, right? To provide that document, not a jury trial, just these things. That should not be a constitutional crisis. But right now we find ourselves either in one or approaching one because we really want to deport these people. And I am sympathetic to that. I
Yeah.
am fine with people wanting to deport people. I really don't care. Okay. Like, listen, I'm from Houston, Texas. All right. I've been around illegal immigrants my entire life. In general, I don't care about illegal immigration. I don't think it's as bad as everybody says it is. But you know what? If this is not an issue that I tie myself to, follow the law. Don't break the law. Don't try to shortcut.
If you can't tell by now, the lens that I take when I approach these issues dealing with the current administration and Biden and any is from a legal perspective. It's much easier to talk about the legal perspective than the moral perspective because the moral perspective gets real muddy real quick. Trump is doing things that are legal. The only and the only thing that brings any question,
questionable on
the only thing that
fronts.
the one thing that I would say that I take issue with that of legality is the birthright citizenship. But here's the thing: he hasn't done anything illegal regarding birthright citizenship because he has not deported anybody against their own will who is a quote unquote anchor baby or birthright citizen.
Because they're usually too small to speak.
What are you talking about? Are you talking about the children?
Yeah, the citizen children that got deported because they were infants, and they
weren't deported. No.
Well, they were deported because they were infants and they were with their mother, and they were never given the opportunity for for due process to see if the father wanted to have the American citizen child stay in the United States.
Okay, that case in specificity,
I believe there are two
was
of
dealing
those.
with the one that I know you're talking about, where there was a two. I don't care. It's not. It doesn't factor into the legal argument, man.
Well, actually, it should factor into it because they're on cancer drugs, and the fact that they deported the child without any concern, asking the citizen parent what the best thing for the American citizen child is a lack of concern for American citizen children. It should matter to you, actually.
Bring this into the legal realm. Bring this into the legal. What law has been broken by ICE by doing this?
I think that they're breaking the law. I think that they are breaking the law by not granting them. I think that they are breaking the law, first off, by declaring a fake emergency in order to justify these roundups, first off. Okay. In their own.
What are you talking about with the roundups?
The
Are you talking about the gangs?
Yeah.
The Trend
that's one.
Okay. So you're saying that's a fake emergency.
Yeah, we just watched a video right before you jumped on, right before I was talking to that guy, where not Nancy Pelosi, Tulsi Gabbard just fired two top officials at the in some intelligence agency for creating a report that she requested them to make about the link between Tren de Aragua and the Venezuelan government. This is the entire basis for the emergency that they've put out, right? And the report said that there is no clear link. There is no link between the Maduro government and Tren de Aragua. It completely destroys their entire claim for the emergency action.
Okay. A couple of things.
And then they fired those guys for doing what they asked them to do.
First and foremost, under Trump versus Hawaii in 2018, the courts held that immigration and things regarding immigration, when it's tethered into foreign policy, is exclusively protected under the executive branch. Kavanaugh wrote that. Okay? So if the president wants to declare that Tren de Aragua is a terrorist group, and thus there's a national emergency because there's a terrorist group, that's well within his legal right to do so. Is there any disagreement on that? It doesn't have to be tied to the Venezuelan country.
It's key for this specific law because it requires a invading country. And so they couldn't just say Tren de Aragua are bad guys and they're here. They had to say that they're working with the Venezuelan government to destabilize the United States. So it's actually the entire point that it's with the Venezuelan government. That's the literal point.
No. The exact verbiage is coordination. And the reason that coordination is met as a threshold is because the Venezuelan government verified that they were sending.
The report from our own intelligence agencies says that that's not happening.
Okay. The report from our own intelligence agency, I don't know what you're referencing. There is concrete evidence. There is concrete evidence that Venezuela sent criminals to our country under the Biden era through the southern border.
But now there's no link.
Okay, dude, are you talking about that memo thing that was passed today or yesterday?
I'm talking about a story that Tulsi Gabbard just fired 2 top intelligence officials for bringing her a report that she requested them make at the beginning of the administration taking over to find ties between Tren de Aragua and the Venezuelan government. And when they handed her the report, they concluded that they could not find any credible tie between Tren de Aragua and the Venezuelan government. And they got fired for making the report that she asked them to make.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take you at surface value on that, but I'm gonna look into that, as is almost literally everything that's reported by the media. It's probably not that.
Well,
it's probably
there's more information
that
could come out. Yeah, there could be more information that comes out that changes things, but on its face right now, the way things are looking and based off of everything that I've been saying, it's seeming like that is what just happened, and it seems really bad that we're firing people for doing literally what we asked them to. But just because the results don't line up with what the administration ran on, they're getting fired.
Yeah, and if that's the case, then they have a civil rights action to bring under 42 USC, but they don't, because that wasn't the reason.
Are you a lawyer?
Yeah, I am. Okay. That wasn't the reason that they were fired. I guarantee it. I guarantee
I'm sure
that
on paper, the reason is different, sure.
Okay. Yeah, if the reason on paper that's different is supported circumstantially or objectively, then they don't really have a claim to make, do they?
Well,
and there's not really a problem with firing.
Well, I would say that there is a problem with firing them for making a report that you asked them to make. Yes, if you look at, I'm starting to realize something. You look at only if you could bring a case to court and get a conviction, and that's the only way that you can decide if something is right or wrong. And that's not the way that I think that or 99% of society.
That's not what I'm saying.
Well, it certainly sounded like that the entire time we've had this conversation.
No, I'm not saying you can bring a case to court and get a conviction and then she's wrong. I'm saying to even bring a case to court.
Well, no, you're misunderstanding. See, and that kind of cements what I'm trying to say, in my opinion. It sounds like you only operate on a legal level, and that's how you decide whether or not something is or isn't bad, or could not be bad. It feels like that's the only. I don't know.
That's not my point. That's not my position.
Because it really feels like that every single thing that we've said.
What I've been talking about this entire time, and the entire positions the positions I make, I call into these shows, is I separate the moral from the legal, and I make the position. You can't. You can do a pretty damn good job regarding the actions of the administration, because just because something is immoral doesn't mean that it's legal or illegal.
Yeah, but because something is legal doesn't mean that it's not immoral.
Completely agree. And my arguments that I make is that what the Trump administration is doing is legal. Even if it's immoral, it's legal.
Hold on. I listen. There are some things that they're doing that are probably legal. I just think that they're immoral. And there are some things that they're doing.
No.
Do you think that they're acting? You think that they're mostly acting legally and only a couple of things are
Yes.
illegal?
Yes.
Okay, I
Yes.
would
It's
disagree with that.
99.9. The only thing I can think of that they've done that's it's not even illegal. There is the birthright citizenship. You've got
They
one case that isn't being brought to court for good reason.
they
Dude, there are
provably
these legal groups.
they
No, it's not
provably broke the
provably.
law. They provably broke the law by deporting Kilmar Abrego Garcia to El Salvador because there was a specific order not to deport him to El Salvador. They have specifically broken the law right there. This has been
Okay,
agreed upon by the Supreme Court 9-0.
that's a withholding from of removal that was passed by a district judge, right?
Yeah, to
Okay,
El
that was
Salvador. And they broke that. They ignored that ruling. Did they not?
okay. Okay, they didn't
Did
ignore
they?
the ruling.
Oh,
No,
they didn't ignore the ruling. So he was
no,
able to, he was given due process and he was able to not be deported to El Salvador.
no, he wasn't.
Oh, so they ignored it.
No, they did not ignore it.
They just didn't feel like listening to it.
No, what they said on the record was that they made an administrative error, right? We agree with that?
Oh, an administrative error. Okay. So
Yeah.
they've
Would
made
you would you make the position that ignoring something and making an administrative error are the same thing?
No, I wouldn't. If they made
Okay,
an
so they
administrative
didn't
error,
ignore it.
if
They
they
fucked up.
now here's what I would say. I would say if someone made an administrative error in good faith, they would seek to rectify that issue. Instead, they have doubled down a million different ways to justify deporting him. So excuse me if I don't take at face value the words of the presidency when they say lies all the time, and the guy looks at us and says that the Times New Roman MS-13 on his knuckles are tattoos. Like, excuse me if I don't take every single thing that they say at face value.
Let me ask you something. I have a really interesting. It's funny how the left in general has shifted their position and become such utter imperialists regarding these issues with foreign persons. When did it become the Democrats' position to tell another country what they should or should not do with their own citizen? Like when Trump meant with sorry, go ahead.
I am not the Democratic Party. I am a capital L liberal. I am a capital N neoliberal, a capital N neocon. I like liberalism. I like America. We are the strongest country the world has ever seen. If some country is doing some sort of immoral action and we have the ability to make that stop, we ought to make that stop. If we
complete intervention.
Complete intervention? No, I think that we can pick and choose. And I do think that we can pick and choose based off of what is politically expedient here. I think that we can pick and choose based off of what is moral. I think we can make those determinations at the time. I think that it's not just us telling other nations what to do. It's us acting in a moral way ourselves and recognizing that if we make a mistake, we will rectify that mistake. And we have the ability to rectify that mistake. But we're pretending that we can't rectify that mistake. We pretend like we are weak. Trump talks about us like we're weak. We are the most powerful nation in the entire world. And he kind of let the game slip a little bit when he admitted to, I can't remember what the reporter's name is, but he admitted to that reporter in the interview that, yeah, I could pick up the phone tomorrow, but there are people in there are people in the lawyer's department that don't want me to. He could bring Kilmar back tomorrow. He won't, because there's some strategy in the White House that says it is better politically to leave him there than it is to bring him back.
Maybe how about this one? Instead of saying politically, let's argue diplomatically.
Diplomatically,
Would you say that's
diplomatically?
Yeah, it's a diplomatic position.
It doesn't hurt us. It doesn't hurt us diplomatically at all. Because
yeah, it does.
Duterte, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say his name. Anyways, whatever his name is, the guy in El Salvador, has been reported and reported as being a little uncomfortable with not having the criminal records of the people that he was throwing into the prison. But because he's working with Donald Trump, he's getting a good gig from the United States. Why the would he fight that hard against it?
Okay. Nayib Bukele, who I think is the name you're thinking of,
Oh, who
is
did I say?
I don't think you said anybody. We're talking about the president of El Salvador, right?
Yeah, that's who I thought I was. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, my
Okay,
bad.
Bukele set up those prisons because El Salvador had such a problem with their gangs. We agree?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, are the prisons a good thing or a bad thing for El Salvador?
Yeah, that's a really tough philosophical question.
Okay,
I don't know.
I'll phrase it very simply. Is taking the
I
biggest
could
murder
hear
capital
arguments.
in the world and decreasing it to one of the safest countries in South America, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Listen, I don't know enough about it. I'll say yes for the sake of this conversation, but there are ways that you could make that happen in a way that I would say is absolutely not worth it. Like, let's say, every single time there's a cartel, every single time there's a cartel crime, I'm going to, a class of kindergartners in the town square. And I will do that every single time until society stops the people from doing this. Like, they could do that, and I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't think that that was a good way. So just, I'll take it on face value that the prison is a good thing for El Salvador. But there are ways that you can do something for the good of a nation in a very bad way that I would disagree with.
Okay, okay. I think people forget. I'm not even saying you. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. People forget just how serious the situation was going on in El Salvador prior to
I
Bukele.
understand that it was very, very, extremely, unbelievably bad. That's why we have so many people that fled El Salvador to come to the United States. I understand, and
The ritual to get into the gang was that you had to kill a family member,
yeah, I've heard these things are very,
right?
very bad. I like, you
Okay,
don't have to sell me on
so
how bad the gangs are, dude. Like, trust me, I'm fine with
okay,
it, and
so
I'm
what
fine
I'm
with
trying to
deporting
sell
people.
you on.
Just do it just
Okay,
do it legally.
listen. This is the point I'm making. In court, there's these concepts. It's redressability, and within redressability, you've got mootness, right? You've got injury. Okay. So when this guy, if we were to bring him back to the country, which you're right, we probably could at great expense, and
It wouldn't be that
there's a
expensive. It's a plain.
no,
It's
I'm not talking about objective financial costs. I'm talking about great political expense. We could do it, right?
Hold on. I want to be clear with this, and I'll let you go. It's not great political expense to the United States. It's great political expense to Donald Trump and his administration.
I don't think I think let me make
It
the
would be
position as to why it's
yeah,
to a great political expense.
sure.
Okay? Let me tell you why. America, it's got a reputation that's not exactly the best in the world for kind of being a bully. And much of the time, not for valid cause.
Do you think that
So,
maybe sending people to prison that don't have a criminal record might make us look like a bully?
um, yeah,
Okay,
what does
sorry.
that
Go
have to
ahead.
do with this?
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
What does that have to do with this?
90 something like 80 to 90% of the people that were on the plane to CCOT had no criminal record in any country that they had ever crossed through.
Do they have a criminal record in our country?
No, including our country.
Were they here under 8 USC 1325?
I don't know specifically which, but they were. I don't believe any of them. I believe these were
Were
people
they an
that even showed.
unauthorized alien?
I believe that they were the people that showed up for their immigration hearings. I don't know if they had been ruled as like a alien that needs to be removed. I don't know at what process along that they were at, but they were the kind of people that had no criminal record. They were not part of any gang. They had, uh, you know, they were actually showing up for their immigration appointments and following through with the process. And we arrested the people who were following the process because they were easier to catch than the criminals.
Okay, let's pause really quick.
Do you doubt
Really
what
quick.
I'm saying?
I don't what you're saying, the course of events is accurate, but the way in which it's categorized is inaccurate. Because when you say they don't have a criminal record, the asylum seeking concept can be turned on or off just like a valve by the executive branch because they control foreign policy and they control immigration unless there's something explicitly passed by Congress,
You are
which in this case
100% right. You're 100% right.
Okay.
Can they retroactively apply that to people who have been complying with the rules that were in place when they entered?
So long as the case has not been settled, yes.
I want to know. Can
Yes.
you can retroactively apply a law to someone who committed an action in the past?
I'm a little bit confused by how you worded that, but let me
Sorry,
try
yeah,
and phrase
I
it
did
so that
fumble. Yeah, what I'm asking is,
let me try and phrase it appropriately. Let me put it like this, okay? Let me tell you what I'm saying. If someone commits an act, a crime, or whatever, right? And Congress passes and under the law, they're like currently being processed in court. And while they're being processed, while that hearing is going on, Congress passes a law and says, actually, we're going to pass this law, and the outcome of this case is going to change because of us passing this law. So long as that case is not closed, right? It's not been settled, then the judiciary has an obligation to apply the law to the current case, even if the
I
act happened when the law was different.
you say you're a lawyer. I take your word at
Yeah.
that. This is something like so antithetical to like how I understand our judicial system, and I'm not a lawyer, so like, but like it's so antithetical to like my understanding of like how our justice system works that I can't take your word on this one. And I don't usually do that when it's not my area of expertise, but this seems so on its face, just like uh, antithetical to justice, that I don't think that this would ever fly. That someone could commit an action that was legal one day, but because a law was passed in the interim between them committing the act and being processed and sentenced, they can now receive a criminal or a felony sentence for something that was legal before they were. I'm sorry. This is something I just don't believe on. You could, and if you have like a passage like from an essay or something, or a video from like a lecture or something that talks about this concept, I'd love to hear it.
It's a court case. Court
Well,
case
sure.
passed by the Supreme Court in 1801. It was called United States versus Schooner Peggy. Basically, it said that
How
if a
do you
law changes while a
or
case is
can you
still
type it to me so I know how to?
yeah, sure. United States v.
One sec. Wait,
SCHOO.
wait. I'm trying to pull something up so I can type it into Google. One sec. Jesus Christ. Okay. United States
versus
v.
Schooner, SCHOONER, Peggy.
Peggy. Okay, I will look at that later. I don't want to read through an entire
Yeah,
court case right now, but
right,
I have that in my tabs. Okay, so
right. Here's okay.
so
Listen, just
I'll
like
read that
anything with the
later.
law,
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
just like with anything in the law, it's nuanced, but ultimately what you're thinking is antithetical to justice is done and can be done. Yes. Congress can pass laws that can with people's lives like that while cases are ongoing, to include immigration. So long as the law isn't specifically tied to that specific case, like Congress is passing a law to with that person,
Can you tell me
right? If
what
they
law
pass a general
changed
law,
between when these people entered and?
I don't I don't know. I didn't
Have
know.
we?
You just asked you asked the question, can Congress retroactively pass the law? I said yes. I don't know if that has anything to do with immigration.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked that, sorry, I didn't realize that we went down that road for nothing. The reason I asked that is because it, Kilmar, like all these people, why would we be okay with them being deported? Like that's why. Yeah, I asked you if that was legal, and you say it is. I'll read that court case. I don't believe you on first blush, but I'm not gonna like.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
it's just because it's a
Okay.
court case. I'm not gonna read it on stream.
Two things. Two things. That court case and Congress being able to retroactively pass laws has nothing to do with Kilmore and Berger Garcia.
Sorry,
You can just disregard it.
or any of the
Yeah.
other people. So, like, what I'm saying is, all these
Congress has
people.
passed no law that's been retroactively applied at the moment. That has not been something Congress has done,
Okay,
to my
so
knowledge.
right. So what I'm saying is, I don't remember exactly what the wording of the question that you were asking me, but essentially what I'm saying is like 90% of the people that were sent to CCOT, right, had no criminal record in the United States. And they didn't have a criminal record when it came to the immigration system either, because these are people, to my understanding, and granted, I was only able to read about half of the article, so because I was at work. So, but from the half of the article that I read, 90% of these people had no criminal record, including immigration charges. They were complying with the process of applying for asylum or some other mechanism, depending on which person it was. They were in those, like in the middle of those processes, but they were arrested at work, at home, in front of their kids, and sent to El Salvador. They've not broken the law. They've complied with what we've asked them to do, which is why I find this, like, even if you don't find it to be illegal, which I question, but it is deeply immoral, and it is something that the Trump administration should not only stop doing, it is something that they should rectify, because sending innocent people to jail is something that is so grossly inhumane to me as someone who believes in our justice system, who thinks that our justice system is really, really cool.
He hasn't sent them to jail, dude.
They're,
He's deported them back to their country of origin.
He's paying for them to be kept in that facility. He sent them there to be put in that facility, and he's paying for it.
Yeah, that's not Trump sending them to jail. Right? There's a huge difference.
Preston, are you going to tell me right now that if I were to kidnap someone and then I sent them to another country and then I paid someone to hold on to them for me and they did, physical labor for them, that I did not send that person? I didn't. What are you saying here?
What is
the argument?
Okay. The argument is that Trump isn't jailing these people.
No,
that he's
Bukele
paying.
Is. He's paying someone else to jail. Yeah.
So that's on Bukele, dude.
Why did he send them there?
Because he knows he's got enough concrete evidence on the individuals, regardless of their criminal record, that they're a part of Tren de Aragua.
So
Trump has then labeled Tren de Aragua as a national threat under the aliens.
So
dude,
no
it's just
evidence
a legal argument.
No evidence has been provided whatsoever for any of these people whatsoever. They were not given any due process. They were sent out of the country, and now they are being paid to stay in essentially a concentration camp for terrorists, which we can quibble about the humane treatment of people in MS-13 and all of that, but I don't think people who have a spotless criminal record should be not just sent to some other country, we should be paying for spotless criminal records to be in a prison for the worst people in the world.
Dude, if someone enters the country illegally,
were these people? Hey, I'm sorry. Were any of these people? Were any of these people illegal immigrants? Were any of these people living here illegally?
Yeah.
Do you know that for a fact? Well, they were complying with immigration orders. So they at least had.
For a fact, they were under. Yes, under so for a fact. 8 U.S.C. 1325. Yes.
Did they have permission to stay here as long as they complied with the immigration orders and had their case go through the courts?
I don't know. It probably varies from person to person. There might be a few.
If 90%,
to your credit, there might be.
Yeah, I'm.
Dude, you have a mental like association right now with the criminal record thing.
Yeah, because
it doesn't
I don't think
fucking matter if they have a criminal record. That doesn't factor into the legality of what Trump is doing.
Preston, I've already told you the legality is not the only thing that matters here, and I explicitly said that the legality could take a backseat to the morality of the most powerful nation in the entire world, acting like saying that we're too weak to first off, deal with illegal immigration ourselves. Number two, to find the actual criminal gang members that we're saying are the big problem. Instead, we're going out and we're finding the most like easy to catch mom and pop people who are complying with the authorities because they actually might have a asylum claim. Those are the people that we're going after. I'm sorry. This is ridiculous. And it's stupid to only look at it through the legal lens. It makes us look on the world stage, sending people to the pain prison and CCOT in El Salvador is a political loser. It makes us look evil to everyone on earth. It makes us not look good for trade agreements that we might be trying to do with people.
I need you.
Right?
I need you to hear this, please.
If you say one thing about it's not illegal, I'm going to lose it, Preston. I want you to know that.
Okay. When you say they're not provided due process, right?
My understanding is not a jury trial, obviously.
No, we're talking about the Fifth Amendment. Talking about the Fifth Amendment due process clause. We're not talking about the 14th because this isn't state, this is federal.
Yes.
Right. So the requirement for due process, it's pretty basic, man. It's like you need to have notice, you need to have an opportunity to be heard, and you need to have a neutral decision maker, a fair and impartial judge.
Yes, you're right. And they couldn't even meet that. They didn't meet that for these people. That's why there's so many lawsuits right now. They're not doing that for these people. That's the bare minimum. That's all. I wouldn't have an argument if they did that, Preston. I wouldn't have an argument.
Okay.
That's all. That's the bar is in hell. Let them give them the opportunity to show evidence, have a neutral immigration judge, and give them the opportunity. That's literally it. And then throw them out of the country. I don't care. But you can't grab people, not give them that opportunity, not give them the opportunity to be heard, not give the opportunity to show documentation, to show that they have been complying, and then sending them to, and it's not even like they just deported them, man. It's that they deported them and they sent them to the worst prison in the Western Hemisphere. And on top of that, they don't have criminal records. All of these things together make for a deeply immoral, a deeply flawed action that I question you on the legality of it, but my God, on a political, on a moral, on a, in my opinion, legal level, like this is untenable, and it doesn't become of a world superpower, of the only superpower. We're not acting like a superpower.
Can you hear me? Or no?
Oh, now I can.
Okay.
Sorry, were you cut out? Sorry, I was ranting for.
It's okay. I know you were. I heard you. Listen, please. I beg of you. If these people who are you're talking about Safe Hot in particular, and the majority of them didn't have a criminal record, which again, I must say is not relevant when it comes to legality if you're here under 8 U.S.C. 1325. But if they're not provided due process, okay, then they can sue. People can sue on their behalf. And when I tell you there are lawyers chomping, okay, when I tell you there are lawyers that are chomping at the bit to sue on their behalf, all of them, because they know it's a moneymaker, violation of federal due process under 42 U.S.C.
I know.
And they're going to do it, and they're going to be fine.
Yeah, and I realize, but you're looking at this only through the lens of like the lawyer industry, the legal industry. Maybe this is just what happens to people when they go through law school, or maybe it's the kind of person that goes through law school. Like, I'm a political science major. Maybe that was your undergrad, probably. No,
it's not relevant. No.
Sorry, I'm not trying to get. Sorry, I'm just trying to make a connection. I'm not trying to be a total asshole.
That's just not. It wasn't what I had. I was in a political science major. Yeah. All right.
But like, not everything is purely through. Like, does it have a legal argument that it is like possibly legal, or solidly legal, or questionably legal? Like, again, there are other considerations here that go into play, and I question the legality aspect of it. You can like, I'll read that case as well, but like, again, like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, do you not at least understand the position or the point of view that I'm putting out there? Because I'm not trying to fight you on the legal part right now, because I don't know, right? I'm not a lawyer, but I do know on
Yeah,
the political side and on
I'll
the
bring in the morality of it. I'll bring in the morality of it. Real simple. Okay.
okay.
If
Uh,
you have a broken system, oh, go ahead. What?
um, actually, do you mind if I get like a glass of water really quick? Can I trust you not to like
Yeah, it's
say a
fine.
bunch of slurs or anything on stream while I
Yeah,
work out?
I won't. You're
Okay.
fine.
Okay. Yeah. Give me like just 2 seconds. My mouth is dry. All right. I am back.
When you have a system that's so unbelievably broken, you look. My position, as is many positions in historian positions, is that the framers set up a really beautiful and intricate system that, if applied properly, you have different venues for different things. Like morality is through Congress, man. Like these moral arguments that you're making are like congressional.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
legality is usually downstream of morality. I'm
well,
sure you've heard that.
it's not. Yeah, I've heard that, but I'm saying like you're making a position right now that's like, hey, listen, it's kind of up how this is going. Like the executive is just coming in, and maybe they're being a little bit wishy washy with how they're going about this with due
No,
process.
I don't think that it's just wishy-washy is the thing though. Like I see them like verifiably lying about like multiple
Fine,
aspects, right?
fine.
Like they're
Hey,
well,
the
hold on.
executive is verifiably lying. Let's say that. Let's assume that, right? Like the
Well,
executive is verifiably just deporting people without providing actual due process. It's up. Okay.
that
You
would be
go through
illegal.
Congress. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's illegal. What the executive's doing is illegal. This is messed up. We need to do something about this. It's like, yeah, well, you should first and foremost, you
Tron, hold on. 1 second.
you shouldn't have given the executive so much power
I agree.
under liberal president. Yeah, all right. It was an FDR grab, man, and a Woodrow Wilson grab for executive power.
I mean, every
You
single
got
it's hard to pin it on one president when they've all done, done it. I mean, like, at least since Wilson and FDR, like every single
it's
one's done
precedent.
it.
It's
Yeah,
precedent, dude.
yeah, and listen, I'm not a fan of executive fiat. I don't want the presidency. I didn't want a Democrat to go in and rule through the executive, and I don't want Trump to. And I don't want Trump to, and I also don't think that it's good or healthy for our democracy for a president to try and test the absolute outer limits of what the president can and can't get away with. Like,
It's a different, from a legal perspective, it's actually awesome because
I
you
no,
want
I think from a legal perspective, there are some questions we should just have left in the dark. You know, like
no. You want to be able to restrain. You want
I
to be able to ebb and flow things.
Yeah, but
You
like that
know,
goes back to the I believe at the beginning of our conversation we had talked about like the concept of the energetic president, and like this is the problem that I run into when I like, now that I'm nearing the end of my degree, I'm becoming more civic minded. I understand more about this stuff. Like the idea that we would Jesus Christ, sorry, I just saw something that I need to take care of in my chat and I lost my train of thought. 1 second. Okay. Um, I was saying, what was the last sentence I said? Sorry.
you're talking about something about an energetic president.
Yeah, energetic president, right? So like our founders wanted an energetic president, but like energetic president and testing the outer bounds, I think, are contradictory. An energetic president is going to flourish in those gray areas, right? Where we don't bring those things to the Supreme Court, because it's like, this is a question that, like, if we answer, then every single president for all of time going forward is going to be hard constrained to these actions. So that's why a lot of these questions haven't been brought to the Supreme Court. I'm sure that you know about this concept, right?
Well,
Like,
the founders intentionally put things in there knowing that they would change.
sure,
Believe it,
yeah, of course. But
like
like, do you think that they? Do you think that like? I just find it hard to believe the idea that the founders wrote this constitution. They spent the entire constitutional convention heaving and hawing back and forth over what was how many people are going to be counted for the first vote, blah blah blah, and then they get to the end and they're like, yeah, you know what, if the president wants to come in and just like absolutely bust up every single possible power that we've delegated to him or implied that he's delegated, and just like hardcore cement those and make sure that he does or does not have those things, that would be super based. Do you I don't think that that's
I think that the framers look, you have to look at it from the position that they all had completely different perspectives on things, dude.
sure, yeah, but like
Like
I don't think that they
Jefferson
wanted.
probably would love Trump.
I don't know. They liked people. They liked executives that were heavily constrained by law, and Trump is trying to see
Did
what
they?
the.
Do you think they did?
Yeah,
You
I
really
do.
think so?
Yeah, I do think that they liked
Well,
that they
well,
liked
they
politicians
didn't.
in general with constraints.
They didn't put term limits on them, did they?
Not on Congress people. I guess they didn't put them on presidents until FDR. No, they didn't put any on
They didn't do
anyone.
that. They gave him complete and utter authority of the military.
Yeah, because who in the civilian life is going to control this military? But
The president does. He's a civilian. They give him
oh yeah,
complete and utter
sorry.
control of the
Yeah,
military.
sorry. I
Who in the
think commander.
military?
Sorry, you're right. I'm thinking commander in chief. I'm thinking about. Sorry,
Okay,
but yeah, of course
listen.
the
The
president
point I'm
has the.
making, they gave him an extreme amount of power.
Yes, obviously, but they also checked that power
With
severely.
what? Only one thing checks that power, dude. It's impeachment. Look, think about it. When I say check that power, we're
I
going
know
back
what you
to
mean.
another
I know.
conversation.
Yeah, like okay, so
It's
but
the
like this
only
is a.
thing where the rubber hits the pavement is impeachment.
Right, but like this I don't know. Like maybe this is just like a complete difference of opinions. And maybe I'll change my opinion to yours. Maybe I'll just say everything, decorum, president, everything. We're just going to get everything we want. We're going to try and ramrod and shove our down the throat of America and make sure we get what we want when we want it, no matter what. But I actually feel like the our all three of our branches operate in some ways on gentleman agreements, on understandings that this is something that is good for democracy if we don't do it, right? If we don't, steal legally, but steal a Supreme Court justice or two. Like there are some things that do require us to work together and not just rely on the hard, cold lines that are written in the U.S. code. Like, and I maybe from a like hyper autistic lawyer perspective, that isn't satisfying, and I can understand why that's not satisfying. But the way that
No, I understand this idea of having implied in fact agreements or implied in law agreements.
and I think those
But
are good.
here's something to think about. Is that what the people wanted?
I don't know what you mean. When
The people
at the
the people
founding,
knew the people no. The people knew what Trump was going to bring. I mean, I don't like to listen to the hyperbole about the January 6th
but
shit because it
but
wasn't an insurrection, but it wasn't peaceful.
even if I took that as flat out fact, which I would take some exception to, even if I took that as fact, were the founders not concerned with rule by the mob, right? That just because there is a popular mandate for something, that there should be checks and balances such that the mob does not rule the entire country,
Dude,
and there are
the
protections
check.
such that the minority does not rule the country. We have checks and
Okay, okay.
balances, but we're
When
testing
when
the
you talk
limits of
about
them.
when you talk about the checks and balance, in particular the rule of the mob, I don't think I don't want to sound like a or an error. I don't. I want to enlighten you on what that really meant. When the framers were talking about the fear of the rule of the mob, they were saying they didn't want the legislative to get too powerful. And the way that they balanced the legislative is they said, hey, in particular, the rule of the mob is going to be the House of Representatives. And we want to make the Senate to be an aristocratic check on them.
Yeah, I know. Yes, I
Okay.
understand this.
So,
These concepts have
so
changed over time. But like what I'm saying is, I would
yeah,
argue, like,
the Senate isn't aristocratic anymore.
yeah, I know. But like, uh, do you think that there is enough of a popular mandate in the United States to fundamentally rewrite the entire world economic and political order? Do you think that they have that much of a consensus and that much of a
Well, that's a bold claim. When you say rewrite
this
the
is the
entire world
claim
and economic order,
this is the claim that people like
what's being rewritten?
This is the claim that people like Stephen Miller and people in Trump's cabinet are making, and the thing that they're rewriting are the economic assumptions, and they want things to be more protectionist. They want to they don't want this neoliberal, send all of the jobs overseas, or operate off of like the Reagan era of liberalism. There was like the classical liberalism, and then we entered like the more gilded age of like crony capitalism, and then there was the FDR New Deal capitalism. We had Reaganite neoliberalism, and we're
You would agree with me that I know what you're driving at
okay.
here in regards to tariffs, and what you'd agree with me, right, trying to reshake up the American economy through tariffs. You'd agree with me that tariffs can be a good thing for specific goods, right?
It is very hard for me to grant anything when it comes to tariffs. We're having a nice conversation, so
National security,
I can be good faith with you. There are
national security.
Well, hold on, I'm trying to agree with you. There are some use cases for targeted tariffs. There are some use cases. However, I would argue that there are other economic tools that we can use that are carrots and not sticks, that we can apply and would not harm any of our relationships overseas. And
But it's okay. It's okay. Everyone understands when you apply the stick for specific tariffs. You don't have to. I don't care if China's offended.
But
if
the problem
America.
is no, like, and again, like if he just applied some tariffs to China, like just from an economics point of view, like I would probably still have a problem with it, but I wouldn't have as much of a problem with it as like the opening salvo was against our allies, right? And they were very high, and then
You can agree with me that he's using them as a means of bargaining, right?
But see, I don't know. That is the thing. Like, I would like
Well,
to agree with you,
the record indicates it.
but Sometimes, but then sometimes it's to bring manufacturing back, and then sometimes it's supposed to be a form of revenue gathering for us to get rid of the
Yeah, I know.
tax.
He's hyperbolic and he's hyperbolic and he's not
But like,
targeted
which
with
but everybody
he morphs
believes
into
one of
whatever he
these. But like everybody believes one
no
of these things extremely hardcore. I do know this because I've been watching people hardcore defend
everybody
these. All of these things
everybody
have
who's
arguments that people are arguing these for. Everybody has
everybody
their
who's
own.
pro MAGA, everybody who's pro MAGA and has two brain cells, okay, it believes he's using them as a bargaining tool.
That's not what the people in the Midwest who voted for him think. They think that he's putting tariffs on so they can bring back manufacturing.
And I'm sure for specific goods he is going to attempt to bring back manufacturing. I think he does want to create a strong auto industry in America. Frankly, it is a little bit sad
I don't think
what
that
came to
there's any
be.
strategy is the thing. I like if there was like more coherence to it, but like everyone in the administration has a different reason for why these things are happening. Everyone's trying to like get their own personal meeting with Donald Trump so that he can truth out an announcement that goes against what someone else on the other side of the building is trying
You
to get
said
him
you're
to
pro
do.
America, right?
I am, which is why I
Like
don't
you
like
said
this
you were a classical
chaos.
liberal. You said you were a classical liberal,
I
right?
didn't. No, I didn't say classical liberal. I said I am a capital L liberal.
Okay.
Yeah,
What does that even mean?
I, I, I don't agree with everything that the Democrats agree with. I agree with the tenets of the Enlightenment, like classical liberalism. Like you could basically call me that, but I would probably be a lot more leaning into things like social democracy, or there are a lot more like hyper capitalist things that I think we should do, even compared to that. But yeah, I really like
Okay.
capitalism. I really like freedoms.
Okay. Okay. What if the deal is better for America, you don't really care, do you?
But like, it,
Do you really care how the sausage is made?
yes, the process is really important when it comes to these kinds of deals, and like uh, how it comes down to how we're interacting with other nations, especially our allied nations. And when we're like making long-term plans for our geopolitical goals, yeah, it's really, really important, the process. We can't
We
slap.
control we control everything. We can slap them around if we want. They do take
We
advantage of us economically.
there to a certain degree, we can slap these people around. We can't slap
We
everyone.
should and
We can't
we
slap
should
everyone
sometimes.
around at the same time and get away with it. We
Yeah,
why
we are.
no, we're not, because
Britain
look,
struck the deal. China's working the deal
Britain
right
did,
now.
hold on. Do you think that Britain struck a deal? Because Britain, when they came out, they had what is the framework of what a deal could look like by the British's admission. That is what their reporting on it was. They have the framework. It's not a deal. This is not what the tariffs are set at. They have reduced tariffs. That is the only thing that has changed. We have no deal with England. We have no deal with China. No deals have been
Okay,
announced.
all right. What you're arguing for is, and in my opinion, and you probably have a different perspective, is semantics. You're saying, hey, there's nothing actually written on paper yet. There's nothing actually that's been codified. Nothing, no handshake agreement that's been created, and thus there's actually no deal. Okay, what I'm making a position is that the way that this is going
There will be
is
deals.
positive. Yes,
At
absolutely.
at a certain point, yeah, there's going to be deals. I never ever said that there will never be deals. There will be deals.
Okay.
There are no deals now. They are telling us
Well,
lies, saying that there are deals when there are no deals.
okay. The framework that was announced by Britain,
Is not a deal.
it, it's not, but it had elements in it that were indicative of a deal that they're working out.
What you're
Like
saying is they have a
agricult.
concept of a plan. And that is
It's
embarrassing for the
no, it's not.
president of for the
There's
president of the United
specificity.
States to come out and try and laud this as some special thing when it is the framework of a plan that they have worked out over the course of like a week and a half. When what I'm understanding when I'm listening to these econ wonks on podcasts, it takes about 18 months for any kind of economic deal to be hammered out because of the minutia that goes into any kind of trade deal. And we're doing not any kind of multilateral trade deal where a whole bunch of nations come together and all make a deal at once. We're making, how many countries are there? 198 deals at once? It's not happening like that.
What I'm understanding is you have a suspension of disbelief that it can all be done. You're saying that it's not even possible.
No, you're not understanding. I don't know what these trade deals are going to look like. I don't know if they are going to be better or the same as what they were before. And in the meantime, we have these tariffs on that are hurting our economy. In the meantime, we keep on playing hot and cold with the market, and the market is playing hot and cold with people's retirement funds. This is just chaos. It's just chaos.
So what's this? Okay,
what's the solution?
Okay.
Take the tariffs off and start negotiating new deals. You could just open up by saying, hey, I'm going to start making some deals. And if I don't see progress in the course of a year, then I'm going to start laying some demonic level tariffs on. You can just start with, I want to start making new deals. I'm in charge now. I have the big. But instead, he comes out and he applies some of the highest tariffs to our allies, people that we have trade surpluses with, that we are making money off of, like Australia and like England. And then we're going to come out and we're going to say we have a deal with them. That's the framework of a deal. That's the concept of a plan with someone that we already were making hand over fist money with. Like, it's stupid.
I understand you. I empathize with you.
I'm
generally not a fan
of. This is the position we're all in.
Well, you called it stupid. Fine. I understand your position. Okay. I'm generally not a fan of tariffs either. I'm not a big fan of the application of tariffs. It's usually a play from the Democrats' playbook, frankly, to do tariffs.
Historically, yeah, but like again, this is the thing.
I'm not a fan of that. However,
it's about targeting things, about being smart.
What I'm looking for in these tariffs, if he wants to apply it in the most sporadic way possible, look, he's successful for a reason. Okay. He was a mogul of business for the majority of his life for a good cause.
He had a casino that went bankrupt.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. He also was a very, very wealthy property owner. Like, yeah, he has had failed businesses. Yeah. What does that have to do with the fact that he's an extremely successul businessman?
He really wasn't that successful until he had The Apprentice, and that's where like he kind of like made his rebound. All of his properties were rotting until then. That's where he like kind of made his comeback because he's a reality TV show host.
Dude, I can't dude. When people argue this point, it drives me bonkers. He has a master's degree from the best business school in America, from Wharton School of Business, and he worked people over fucking coal.
I read, or a biography about him that I read. Like it was a pro-Trump thing. Like they just like explained like. They made it sound nicer than that, but like
at the start of The Apprentice, he was still one of the 200 most richest men in the world. Okay.
I'm sorry that this is hurting your ego. That I said that I don't like the guy that is super rich. Like you're getting super.
It's not hurting. This is why I don't trust my ego. It just like you're like
it
doesn't hurt my ego. It just annoys me when people try to downplay. It doesn't hurt my ego. It annoys me when people try to downplay the success of Donald Trump prior to the presidency. He's an extremely successful individual.
I don't think he's a smart person. I don't think he's a smart person. I don't think that he's an eloquent person. I think that he has actually damaged my country in irrevocable ways. It is unbelievable.
Well, the smartest person in the world doesn't become the president of the United States, do they?
Yeah, I guess it's just the most popular. Whoever can get the most to vote for him, I guess.
And there it is. You know what? That's the underlying root cause of why MAGA became so popular. It's because of statements like that.
You guys call Democrats, since I was a child, I have heard conservatives call Democrats pedophiles, call all gay people child. Excuse me, when I don't take your pearl clutching at me saying something like that.
It's not a pearl clutch.
Yo, it's a pearl clutch.
It's not a pearl clutch.
Tell me, what did I say that was so mean? What was so bad?
Whoever is the presidency, whoever can get the most to vote for them.
Yeah, I think that if you voted for Donald Trump, you're probably If you voted for Trump because you heard him talk about tariffs, you thought that was going to be good for the economy, you're probably. If you listen to Donald Trump talk about the fact that he's going to deport all of the illegal immigrants and Mexico is going to pay for it, you're probably. The things that he promised versus the things that can possibly be done in a legal manner are just the gulf is wider than we have the measurements to calculate. It's just unbelievable.
It's that logic, man. Look, this is why
You
the
can
Democrat
say,
Party is struggling.
No, it's not, because you guys
Is that a winning solution?
You guys have been haughty and looking down at your nose at poor people forever, and people still voted for Republicans back then, and people voted for Democrats back then. I don't buy it. You guys just don't like the Democrats because you probably just don't like gay people. You find them cringe. You probably find Democrats to be cringe. But by and large, the Democrats have better policies. Say what you will about the gay stuff and all.
Name
that
a
stuff.
social policy passed by the Democrat Party through Congress in the past 20 years.
In the past 20 years, social policy.
30 years. That's the biggest claim to fame is they're representing the average working person.
The infrastructure spending bill that happened under Biden, where they were.
It's not a social policy.
Is that not social spending?
No.
Would you not consider that social spending when you're upgrading hospitals and shit and upgrading schools?
No, that's not. I don't even know what social spending is, but it's discretionary spending. I've never heard of social spending before.
Well, it would be like spending on social programs and stuff like that.
The welfare state? Yeah, that's not a social policy I'm talking about.
Well, I didn't say the welfare state. I said the infrastructure bill, the investment where they were investing into upgrading bridges and stuff, and upgrading the energy grid and stuff like that.
Yeah, that required bipartisan support and wasn't. Yes, that's not what I mean by social.
And the Democrats.
That's not what I mean by social policy. The Democrats' party claim to fame is that they're doing intersectional.
I don't care about that. I think that they should drop that. I think that they should drop that for the next election. I don't think that that's a popular thing. By and large, I think that people should be able to do whatever they want with their own lives, right? I think that that's the way the Democrats should talk about it. But that seems and you're showing your hand right here. That's the biggest issue for you, and it's not the biggest issue for me.
It's not the biggest issue for me, dude.
Well, why didn't they pass any gay bills? Why didn't they pass any bills to help the black community? That's what they're all about. No, the Democrats have much more policy than that. They have a lot they actually have a vision for what the future of America is going to look like, and it involves an industrial policy.
No, they
making
don't.
Green technology. Yes. What would you call all of the bills that they passed, where they were investing in manufacturing in the United States, investing in green technology so that we would be at the forefront of manufacturing these things that nobody else has the ability to manufacture yet. These things are I don't know, these are bringing jobs to the United States. We are starting to build back chip fabs under the CHIPS Act. The Inflation Reduction Act also brought back a whole bunch of jobs. I don't know what you want from me. When you say social spending, I'm sorry, not social spending, you say social policy. I would say that creating more economic opportunities for people is probably in the domestic, sphere is probably social policy. I would say that's probably a good thing. Probably allows for people to be more.
Tell me why they lost then.
Why they lost? It probably has a lot to do with inflation.
Tell me why Trump got elected in 2016. People then jumped off that ship, voted for Biden, and then jumped back on the Trump ship. Tell me why that happened.
I would say that in 2016, people were probably tired of the Democrats, and then in 2020, people realized that, oh shit, we're being run by a. And then in 2024,
hold on to that statement.
Yeah, I know.
Hold on to that statement.
Yeah, trust me, I'm not going to defend the actions of the common voter. All right, you can sit here and call me haughty and all this stuff, but yeah, the said, okay, well, all of the stuff that happened as a result of Trump's mismanagement of COVID, all of the inflation that happened as a result of COVID that nobody could have predicted, well, that's all Biden's fault, and we're going to see if Trump 2.0 can do something. And now he's come in and he's our economy again. And you can't contend with that because,
Dude.
again, the inflation, everybody who is honest would say that that was not something that the Biden administration did themselves. It was a combination of Biden, Trump, and worldwide policies that caused that level of inflation. However, the Biden administration was able to get inflation down faster than any other comparable economy in the world and
So you're
keep
saying
it
it's
down.
an economic reason that he lost?
Yes.
It was economic. It was the poor economy.
It was economic perceptions.
Okay, it's economic perceptions. It was that the economy, where there was one claim, but in reality was feeling a little bit different.
I would say
ultimately,
that is
had the
that
economy
and
been
the
better,
woke,
Biden would have been elected.
I would say if the economy had been better, yes, 100%. I would say it's a combination of the economy and people like losing their mind over woke shit.
Okay, dude, I need you. I'm a staunch conservative, and I really
tell.
need you to see my point of view on this.
I have tried,
Okay,
but like
no. But what I'm about to say, please.
I want
the Democratic
wait,
Party.
I need to tell you this because I'm going to blow up at you if I don't, and I don't want to blow up at you because you're trying to break bread with me. Okay, I have spent. And I know you probably haven't ever seen my stream before. I have streamed for the past 5 years. I have spent the overwhelming majority of that time at great cost of my reputation defending the honor of other conservative commentators because I was trying to understand and break bread with them. I am from the deep South. I know a lot of staunch conservatives. Because I deeply care, spent so much time and effort and reputational loss trying to understand and bring people together. Don't just call everyone a Nazi just because they're a conservative. They disagree with us, and that's fine. We need to work together. Every single one of them is now talking about the great replacement. Every single one of them now is saying, I don't care if Donald Trump is accepting bribes. The Democrats did it, so Donald Trump can do it. None of them have any principles. So when people say you have to understand it from a conservative perspective, I subsumed myself in the conservative perspective for like 2.5, 3 years in good faith, only for all of those people to eschew all of the principles that they begged Democrats to show the second that they were in power. I'm very bitter when it comes to conservatives asking me to understand. But go ahead.
I'll tell you this. I would have voted Democrat in 2024. Before it even got to the main stage, I saw this guy on like local news, RFK Jr., who was like, hey, I'm going to try and run for the Democratic caucus. I think I've got a good shot, right? And then RFK Jr., the Democrats, they said, well, hey, you have a really kooky stance on a fair amount of things to include, what's it called? Vaccines.
Yeah.
And so your kooky position, it doesn't really... Yeah, and that's why I said on various things. He's got a kooky position on vaccines as well as a lot of takes on, the state of health and whatnot. And so you don't really vibe with us, so you're out. And then it's like, well, Tulsi Gabbard, you could be a good front runner. It's like, no, you're out. You went on the Joe Rogan podcast. You're out. It's like, okay,
but like,
whoa. But that guy was a. Hold on, but please. So then what they do is, you say you've been subsumed by conservative podcasters.
No, I didn't say that. No, hold on. That's not what I said.
Yeah, you said you try to see their perspective.
Not by podcasters. Like I've talked to people. I have I'm not just going off of podcasters. It's
sorry.
On the groundwork.
You've tried to see the perspective of the conservative mind in regards to Trump. Okay, got it. Great.
Or just in general.
The Democrat Party. In general, the Democrat Party for 4 years gaslit us and said that Biden was fine, and conservatives for 4 years, like every week, we're like, dude, this guy's not fine. And then you put him on a stage, right? And you didn't, and then he crumbled. So okay, it's like, fine, fair enough. Then what happens? It's like, well, you're gonna obviously hold a caucus, right? You're gonna hold like generals, and you're gonna get another person. Like, no, we're just gonna delegate the voters to Kamala Harris. Like, oh, so the pro-choice party doesn't let its own constituents choose its candidate?
Oh my God. Okay.
It's really quick. I'm gonna vote for that.
Okay, really quick.
Fuck out of here.
say what you will about the Biden situation. When it comes to dropping out and having a caucus afterwards, that is a legitimate and like difficult decision to have. All right, I said this at the beginning of the stream. People can criticize them and you say they're hypocrites and all that shit. That is a legitimately difficult and not black and white decision to make whatsoever, because what are you going to do? You're going to say, oh, well, we have this vice president. They're technically the second in command of the party, but we're just going to skip over that person because them. Like, does that not look good? And does that not make your position look weak when it comes to going into the election itself? Like, these are like legitimate difficult political questions to ask, and it's not an evil thing that they chose to go with Kamala Harris. It's an entirely reasonable and expected thing for them to go with Kamala Harris.
Dude, let me ask you this: had a primary election been held, do you think Harris would have been the nominee?
No.
Okay, so it was clearly a bad decision.
Yeah, but we didn't have time to have a primary election. We didn't really have time to have a caucus. And the idea, and look at it from the other side of things, if you had the caucus, then what are you going to have? You're going to have a bunch of people fighting and slinging shit at each other right before a national election when the party should be having unity together behind one person. Yeah. This is something that the Democratic Party had to grapple with and had to make a decision on. Now, I don't know if they made the right or wrong decision. I don't know if there was a way for them to win that election. Okay. But casting them as evil for this decision is just insane to me.
That's not, dude. It's not just that they didn't hold the primary. That's not the cast that's evil.
Well, when it comes to RFK and Tulsi,
dude,
when you say those
they
names,
maliciously and volitionally knew that Biden was not fit for 4 more years. They should have held a primary, disregarded that, put him on stage anyways, and then said, okay, well, we're just going to choose Harris because we need to have party unity.
I'm not sure if he was or wasn't good for 4 more years. I don't know if he was just good for the debate. Dude, I don't fucking know.
For 4 years, conservatives said there's a serious problem.
Yeah, and there's obviously a serious problem, but you guys want to accept that with Donald Trump right now. That doesn't answer a single question. He delegates every single answer, and when he does answer, it's actual nonsense. But you guys have never accepted that.
There it is. Why the fuck would I ever accept? Won. That's why he won right there. You just said it.
Because because you just hate the Democrats. And there's no reason why I should ever try to appeal to you. You've already said that you're a staunch conservative. There is no world in which anything that I have said, and this is the realization, after all that time that I've spent working to try and understand and break bread with conservatives, because I grew up around you people. All right?
Trump isn't a conservative.
Shut the up, you son of a... All right?
You good?
Are we still having a conversation?
Oh, I didn't like that you screamed shut the up at me.
Well, you keep on screaming at me, so I screamed at you.
All right. Well, I'm not trying to scream at you.
I don't think that there's any more conversation to have. We fundamentally disagree, and you get triggered every single time I criticize Trump. I don't think that he is a good person. I think that he is rotten to the core, and I think that every single thing that we've discussed today, you've tried to excuse illegal or immoral actions on the part of the president. I'm of a mind that our president should not only follow the law, he should follow a code of ethics. Not just the law.
Okay, what we were talking about that got in such a heated moment was I was trying to make a position that the Democrats, if they were so adamant against Trump, should have taken it upon themselves to run a competent campaign with a candidate that was supported not just via the Democrats.
Well, here's the thing: hindsight's 2020. Everybody agrees that it would have been well, they probably should have done this. Some people say that they should have just put AOC. Some people say that they should have just done this. They should have done Bernie.
Okay.
Everybody has their own pet little idea of what the Democrats should have done.
That would have appealed
to more people to get them to vote for them. But at the end of the day,
it's not just hindsight. It's not just hindsight when you have people in the party as well as in your opposing party who are bringing up something about basic cognitive condition of the president.
And the president
it turned out to be true. If it didn't turn out to be true, then I think you'd have a better leg to stand on.
I
But the
don't
truth of
think.
the matter
Here's
was,
the thing. I don't think it is as true as people are making out. I don't think that he should have run. I don't think that he should have run. But I don't think that he is this drooling that literally was not able to make any decisions whatsoever. And that's the thing that you guys keep on presenting. He shouldn't have run again. He is way too old.
no,
He is a
it,
little
it,
bit
it wasn't,
senile, but he is not
it,
drooling. And and like when you hear him talk
no,
right
I'm
now,
not,
when
I
he's
haven't
going
said
around,
he's drooling.
this is what is baked into every single time you guys say you guys hid this from you guys. No, there was nothing to hide because I don't think that it was like necessarily that bad.
No,
It could have been that
it's,
bad, but you guys are assuming that he should have been 25th Amendment like last year or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years ago as soon as he got into office. You guys have been saying it from day
well,
one, and he wasn't
the,
that bad on day one, and he wasn't necessarily so bad that he couldn't finish out his 4-year term when he was running
the
for the second time.
refusal, the
He shouldn't have
refusal to
run
take a,
again. He shouldn't have run again. But you guys making
the,
it sound like he should have been 25th Amendmented like immediately is just like ludicrous, and it makes the entire
no,
conversation
it,
impossible for me to like take you guys seriously.
the debate in which he got lost in his own sentence, the first one with Trump, didn't fare too well with him
That
when he
was
was
bad.
talking about,
Yeah, I watched
okay,
it live on
the
stream.
the the next day mistaking Zelensky for Putin didn't really help his case.
No, it didn't. It was really bad
Okay,
looking. Yeah.
right. And so the position that I make, and the absolute refusal to take a cognitive, like any cognitive function test, but simply saying, hey, we can have a doctor
Didn't
sanctify you
Trump
as mentally
also?
sound. No, Trump said he would take one. Trump said he'd take one if Biden took one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that there was a sorry. I didn't remember how it worked or what the back and
Okay.
forth was like on that
Yeah,
one.
Trump said, hey, I think Biden should take a test and I'll take one alongside him.
I just remember there was one 4 years ago, and he thought it was like a crowning
Okay.
achievement that he thought that he could identify the elephant versus the giraffe.
So your position was, hey, this is a really difficult position that's not black and white. The Democrats, maybe they did make the right move by not holding
No, I
a
don't think that
primary.
I don't think that they made the right. They obviously didn't make the right move, but I don't know what the right move is. And trying to hindsight 2020, like Monday morning quarterback this bullshit, like is just like highly uninteresting to me. And
Okay.
the claims of Biden's salinity, like the severity, I just don't buy.
Do you
So
agree? Do you agree that in 2016 Sanders had it taken from him?
um viscerally, like the feeling at the time was yes, but like now that I know more about how like party structures work, no, it wasn't like literally stolen
Yeah,
from him.
right. Okay. Well, what about in 2020?
2020, no, he was resoundingly like destroyed. He wouldn't like even
Okay.
if they didn't all go to Biden like that same night, like he wouldn't have won. So
Okay. Well, here's the thing. The point that I'm making, I'm not a fan of two things that you do, and I really think if you want to understand the perspective, just take this one piece of advice, and I'll let you have the floor. Don't consider the general voting population of America to be because they voted for Trump. I'm not. I made a very educated decision on why I voted for Trump, and he
then
was
you
not
are
someone that
evil.
would have. I'm not evil, man. It's that the Democrat Party didn't give me someone to vote for.
Then honestly, there are conservatives I know that didn't vote or voted third party, so that, the Libertarian Party would get funding. I would respect that, but like, listen, I would respect people who like voted for like Republicans in the past, right? Like I
What do you
look at
think about
Republican.
Tulsi Gabbard?
I think Tulsi Gabbard is a traitor to this country. I don't think that she is a. I don't. I think that she is a Russian asset. She is.
What about Bill Maher?
Bill Maher. I think that I disagree with him, but he
Okay, what
obviously has
about Joe
principles.
Rogan?
I think that he probably has CTE. I don't think he's a bad person. I think that he's just a bro.
Okay, here's the point. That again, it's from
You
the
thought that I
perspective
was
of the
going to have a
Democrat Party.
much different take on all three of those people than I did. I
No,
know
I
because
don't.
you
It's
have.
not that I don't think you have a different take
But
from
like,
that.
here's the thing. What
I'm saying
here's
that the what you clearly don't like Donald Trump. You don't like Tulsi Gabbard. You think that Bill Maher is wrong, although principled, and
hold
you
on.
think Joe Rogan has CTE.
I
He's a bro.
there are things I agree with Bill Maher on. There are things I disagree with. I like his free speech stances. I like some of it. There are liberal stances that he has and conservative stances. I am not a diehard. I will only ever think about what the Democrats say. No, I look at like what the Republican Party was before Trump. It is there is a sickness, a moral sickness with MAGA specifically. I'm not saying with conservatism or with religion. My father
Okay,
was a
fine.
pastor. Is
Let me
nothing to
agree
do.
with you. Let me agree with you. Let's take it at face value that there's a moral sickness with MAGA. Like, let me take that. Okay, what is MAGA? MAGA is a populist movement, much as Sanders is a populist movement, right? It's
Yes,
populism. It's dangerous. Okay, is dangerous positions to it. All right, let's say I agree with you, dude. The point I'm making is like when you say that they're retarded or evil for voting for Trump, the Democrat Party completely abandoned an entire subsect of the American populace.
we don't need them. The rest of America doesn't need them. We should be
You
kind and we
clearly
should
do to
help them.
win the election.
Actually, polling would disagree with you. We actually don't need that very specific segment of the population, especially if there's as much fallback with the tech right as people are expecting, given the blowback for the tariffs. Is entirely possible that the Trump coalition dies with Trump if he dies in office,
We're
or
talking
if he
about in
doesn't.
2016, in
No.
2015, and 2016. Prior to Trump, they were completely forgotten
Oh,
about.
in 2016, I would agree. You were either stupid or just dejected in 2016, or you were evil and like an alt-righter to vote for Trump. But I would think that in 2024, the third time around, given everything that's happened, yeah, I would say like
What did he do that's got you so like in the
he
position that he was evil?
lies constantly.
Name a politician that doesn't.
Do you think that I'm sorry. Do you think that I'm asking the president to be a perfectly moral and perfectly like a
No,
perfect actor?
I think that the
Then don't
position that you're
interrupt
judging
me when I'm
Trump on.
shut the up. When I say that he lies constantly, the scale of the lies matters. When you lie constantly about everything, down to the fact that whether or not we were or weren't talking to China's delegation about a trade agreement just like 2 weeks ago, he lied about that. He lied about his justification for deporting the Kilmar Abrego Garcia guy in 5 distinctly provable ways. He lied about what, like, these lies are paramount, right? Like, when you lie about what's going on with the economy, that affects the economy. People plan what they're going to buy. They plan their investments based off of what the president says, based off of what Congress says, based off of what the political scene is like. People base their investments off of that. People base their future off of what the president is doing. And he's acting erratic. He's acting crazy. That's hurting us.
All right. Hey, man. I'm not raising my voice. I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from. I'm not trying to be combative. Uh, you know, so I can't have you tell me to shut the up like that. So I'll call back another time.
All right. Host is erratic sometimes. I'm actually feeling pretty good today. I'm not even in a bad mood. What time we got? 7:30? All right, we don't got too much time left. Damn. Anything that we should go over? Anything that we should check out? You hurt his feelings? I did hurt his feelings. I told him to shut the up. But like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, I do not have as much patience as I used to. I grant that. I don't have as much time and I don't have as much patience. But like, stop telling me things that I've already heard a million times. Like, I've heard every single thing that he said a million times. I want to talk about the Christian dynamic of applied ethics that you implied earlier another time. I definitely don't have enough time for a conversation about ethics or meta ethics or anything like that. This guy has his mind made up. When I even think about the possibility he is wrong, TDS, there are a great many things that I am incorrect about. When it has to do with Trump being a bad person or a bad leader, those are not one of them. I might be wrong about specific things, but I'm very confident on the TDS thing. I don't know what standard of evidence you could show me that Donald Trump is actually helping this country. He values things that are different than me. But you literally did the agree or Nazi? The only time that I said Nazi in that entire conversation was to say that we shouldn't do that. Was there any other mention of the Nazis? I don't remember a mention of the Nazis. I remember me saying that we shouldn't just compare everyone that we disagree with to the Nazis. I remember that mention of the Nazis. I don't remember any other mention of the Nazis. Anyways. You're assuming people worship Trump, that he won. He didn't. Harris lost. You're assuming people worship Trump. But like, that's the thing. The thing is, I see people worshiping Trump. That's what's so worrisome about it, right? Like, if it was like policy disagreements, I would have like policy arguments, but there's no policy disagreements here, you know? They're just doing illegal shit constantly. The policy is just like kind of amorphous depending on which official is talking. So like, what do you want from me? I have to assume people are worshiping Trump because that's the only way that you can defend what he's talking about. You have to have just like faith. It has to just be faith because there's no empirics to back it up. How do I call in? Listen, PMA, please call in next time. If you had called in earlier, I would have called you in. I would have pulled you in, but I don't have enough time. I have something that I'm gonna be ending my stream soon. But if you join the Discord, where is the Discord? Someone type in !Discord in chat. Like, I want to have discussions. Like, I feel like I can calm down. I'm not sure all the time I'll be able to calm down, but thank you, Tron, for hitting exclamation. Yeah, so if you hit !Discord and type that in chat and hit enter, click that link, you can join the Discord, and next time you can jump into a voice call with me. Or you can add stuff to the content suggestions if you want me to go over something, or if you want to challenge me and say you'll never go over this because Democrats will never contend with this, I'll go over it. But yeah, unfortunately, I just don't have time for another conversation. Just start assuming there's some good faith left. I very genuinely, if you go back and you go through the past couple of weeks of my stream, it's actually me having a near existential break from reality, because my entire mental schema of conservatives was completely I thought that they were people that I could work with and that I could, agree in like basic, we shouldn't follow the law and we shouldn't break the law to deport people. But then they started saying extreme, like reveling in cruelty. And I've started writing Substacks. So if you want to read my Substacks, subscribe, whatever. But the first one is going to be on cruelty and the reveling in cruelty that I see happening with conservatives. And to a certain extent, like far lefties do this too. But right now, it is the like if liberals virtue signal to each other by telling each other their pronouns, conservatives virtue signal to each other about like how cruel they can be to immigrants. Like that's what I'm seeing on Twitter right now. That's what I'm seeing like in real life. And I don't want to believe that about conservatives. I don't. Like I am the soy liberal that you guys assume that I am. I do want the best for everyone. I want everyone to get along, and I want to craft policy that brings everyone up, even if I don't get their vote. Even if I explicitly say I'm not coming for your vote, I still want to take care of those people. All right? But like Jesus Christ, I had people like tell me that they were glad specifically for the tariffs for the specific reason that it was hurting the retirement funds of liberals predominantly, because they assume that liberals are the ones that have 401ks, I guess. Like, and I had this conversation multiple times with multiple different people on Twitter right after Liberation Day. They were reveling in the cruelty towards liberals. They were reveling in the cruelty towards immigrants. They did not care whether or not it ended up with any good outcome for them. They were telling me, I don't care if it makes my life better or not. I just want you guys to suffer like I have suffered. And so my patience for conservatives is very thin. And if you are a good faith conservative, you're probably going to have to give me a chance, because I'm not going to be nice. I don't know if I have it in me to be nice when I have been castigated and browbeaten by conservatives since I began streaming, since I began the whole political journey about having principles, right? Having principles, caring about this country, caring about those, caring about, the things that our country was founded on, right? And now that I do care about those things, now they have all tossed them away because it is more convenient to toss away their principles so that they can suck Trump's than it is to, hold on to their principles and maybe lose a few subscribers, Like it bugs me. I don't want to believe that everybody is just willing to turn on their cruelty the microsecond they get power. I don't want to believe that, because I can't do that. I don't think that I would be that kind of person. I don't know if I wouldn't be, granted, but I don't think I have it in my nature to just be cruel. It's a social media overtake of foreign bots twisting the minds of people who feel disenfranchised. That's part of it, but I do think that there's people actually feel this way. Just make sure you don't use the term 86. True. Like South African immigrants. The South African immigrants thing. I don't know if the reason people are mad about it is because of the picking and choosing of who's getting amnesty, or who's getting I can't think of the word right now. What's the word? You cross the border and you claim asylum. Asylum starts with an A. It's the selective what do you call it? Application, the selective recognition, and then pair the selective believing of these people, right? Because they don't believe that the people who are claiming asylum from South America are doing so in good faith. That they're doing so not in addition to the people who are claiming asylum from, south of the border. They're doing that instead of and while reveling in the cruelty, but pretty vile comments were celebrated. Like, I'll say this, when it comes to the South African Boer genocide thing, I have seen legitimately strong evidence on the side that there's no genocide over there, but people seem to have a very strong opinion that it is happening. It's not something that I've ever done a deep dive into whatsoever, and I'm not gonna lie, I never will. I don't have time. I have other things that I need to learn about, but like the fact that there is so much counter evidence to the claim, I can understand why people might, if they know more about it, might be a little bit, but like, see, here's the thing. I would be on your side 100% if it was not instead of, but they're doing it instead of. They're doing this, they're saying, they're making Studio Ghibli animated pictures of women getting deported and crying and reveling in the cruelty, and everyone's like, oh, based, seal clapping, and then they're selectively choosing, okay, these people actually have a legitimate asylum claim. And it's like, okay, I understand what you're saying, PMA. I don't know. I think that there is a reveling in cruelty on the leftist side. I used to be a socialist. I used to be a leftist. I used to be in those communities. But there's a difference, and I need to. I'll write it while I'm writing this article or essay. I don't know what to call it. It feels really, out of anything that I've ever done, it feels most stuck up to try and write an essay, a political essay. But I feel like it's probably more mature than streaming. So, but yeah, I feel like I'll probably try and flesh it out a little bit more, or my thoughts on my Substack that I will be hopefully publishing in the next 2 weeks. But yeah, there's some quality to the cruelty, and I don't know if it's a quality or if it's a quantity thing. But there's a difference in what's going on right now, and it just bugs me so much. But anyways, I don't want to belabor the point too much. Listen, if you haven't already, please like the stream, double tap the screen, blah 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 blah. I can't click on any links, internet gas. But yeah, subscribe to the channel. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll also get access to seeing the full screen stream. Look at that. Oh my gosh. It is horizontal. It's horizontal. Who would have thought? That's crazy. And you can see that format on the actual main page of my YouTube, or if you go to Twitch. Subscribe, name it a manifesto. No, I'm not. I actually thought about like what I should name the title of all my things. It's like, I feel like the most elegant way, because I'm just not creative, I'm just going to name it one word. Just like my first one will be cruelty. The next one will be unity. I already have an idea for my second one, and it'll be unity, and it'll be about, having people work together in a movement. Anyways, I'm belaboring the point. I love you all. I'll catch you guys later. I don't think that there's anything else that I have to announce. So subscribe, like the channel, donate, yada, 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 yada. Join the Discord if you want to argue with me, if you think that I'm wrong about anything, or if there's anything that you think that I should go over on stream, you can post links there that we go over. Catch you guys later. Oh shit, wait. Where is OBS? Now I'll see